Peace and blessings, family. I'm your brother in the struggle, Ali. And today we're going to decipher in the cipher, Playing with Steel. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us in our lessons in Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, section 22, question and answer, that Dr. Yaqub Malik Shabazz was playing with some steel at the age of 6, actually playing with 2 pieces of steel, what we call today lodestones. Lodestones are basically natural ore that's found in the opposite regions of the planet Earth. Opposites attract and like repels. So if you had iron ore rocks from the North Pole and iron ore rocks from the South Pole, the Earth has nickel in it spinning, so they'll naturally attract or they'll naturally repel depending on the direction that they're coming with. So what we're going to do is review some things from the past so that we can better understand the present. We have, if I could load this up real briefly. We have, under what they call the Jin dynasty, a scientist actually named Ji Hong. And in 300 AD, he had written down the ingredients of gunpowder and described the explosion. Scientists made gunpowder in ancient China by mixing sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter. Or potassium nitrate. Now, this formula is not a recent formula. This is an ancient formula. If you read in your Message to the Black Man, those of you that are familiar with the 1965 Message to the Black Man, and we'll put a link somewhere in this video about it, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the Prophet Musa, Moses, was a half original man. And that Musa, one day he had, some devils giving him a lot of trouble, about 300 of them. So he told them to go up on the side of the mountain and he was going to let them hear the voice of God. And the message teaches us that he had set explosives up inside the sides of these hills or this mountain, and he blew them up. Now, it's interesting because our lessons teach us that Musa, Moses, is from 2000 BC or 4,000 years ago. So if Moses is 4,000 years ago, before 300 AD, the original man or the original people or the Asian people or the Chinese people for that matter, they had the science of sulfur. They had the science of explosive. And they used to use it for their rituals, their, festivals or holidays, if you will. And they used to pack it inside bamboo and things of that nature there. Then the Muslims or the Arabs, they start putting it in different metals. And it's interesting because the message teaches us that when we exiled the devils from the Holy Land, they was armed with swords and rifles. So they had metal swords and metal rifles even then. So this is an ancient teaching. We just went to Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. And when we was walking around in there, just, having a little family fun, one of the things that caught my attention was they had an ancient guillotine in there. And they explained in Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum that a lot of people think that the guillotine was invented by the French, but it actually predates the French guillotine. Now, I mean, that guillotines, they really don't know where they came from. But Dr. Yaqub Malik Shabazz, you know how you have on social media your likes and your dislikes, that was a move Yaqub. If he went like this, that means you spare you. If he went like that, off with your head. He did not build prison houses for his people. Okay? So let us look at some of the ancient weaponry that was used by early civilizations that we know about, because some of the stuff historically we just don't know. History, as I always tell you, history is not a science. Around, and to say circa or about 1288, in China, they had what they call the hand cannon. Now, I mean, it's like a. In fact, I'm gonna put some. I think I'm gonna put some pictures of the stuff in here. It looked like a small, like a pipe, if you will. Now, I mean, I remember when we was growing up, you know, we was mentally dead. Now, I mean, in the streets of North Philadelphia, in our silly gang banging days, we used to make what's called zip guns. So we used to just take a pipe. Now, I mean, you could put rubber bands on there. Now, I mean, anything that can like pull a piece of metal, like we'll take one of the bolts out the door, sharpen it up, and that thing hit a bullet and it'll shoot, and the bullet will go through a regular pipe. Now, I mean, you know, so it's a thing where, you know, it's not a complicated technology. These handguns and playing with steel, it's not something that was used by just white people. Black people used it and misused it. Brown people used it and misused it. Yellow people used it and misused it. Red people used it and misused it. And of course, today in America, where we're all mixed together, we're still using it and misusing it. Now, I mean, you have militias in this country that are formed for political and military and sincere patriotic purposes. And then you have all these racist little cells running around that have evil intent. Now, I mean, you have a system in place that really can't get a grip on this gun violence. Now, I mean, it's just too much bad blood that has been spilled. Now, I mean, you know, the Native American Indians, the African slave trade, the North fighting the South, the Civil War, and things of that nature. There, it's just so much. It's so much misinterpretation, misunderstanding, so much confusion that, you know, I personally voted for President Biden, not because he was my first choice. I personally wanted Bernie to win, but I just chose Biden over Trump. You know what I mean? Not that I look at Biden as some holy man. I don't look at Bernie as some holy man. Politics is politics. And you just got to, you know, try to find the little devil, the medium-sized devil, the big devil, and, you know, pick your poison, if you will. Now, I mean, you got to see, well, who at least meets some of the things that I'm striving for. My thing is I strive for and support anybody that supports freedom, justice, and equality. I'm a student father of Elijah Muhammad. So this particular system was used around the year 1288. It was like a hand cannon. It was basically in this day and time, it looked like a pipe, and you know they'll take and pack it with the sulfur and you know the nitrates and things of that nature there, and it would work. Now, I mean, they would take and do that festivals, have battles, wage wars, whatever, and the Arabs took and came in and improved on it. But then around 1545, somewhere around there in Munich, Germany, Emperor Charles V came in with what they call the Wheellock pistol. Okay, now that Wheellock pistol was more, if you've seen it, it would look more like a long gun or more like a rifle. It looked more like a modern weapon. So we would identify with it better. You know what I mean? You know, it was used then. Also around the same time, around 1543. In Japan, you know, the Lord became a gunsmith, and he produced what you would call the revolver. Now, I mean, let me see how many bullets is on it. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. It wasn't a 6-shooter. It looked like, you know what I mean, it took more rounds than the 6. You know what I mean? It's like 8. You know what I mean? But it's like real sophisticated, real handcrafted. You know, like ancient Nippon or Japan, they was already skilled with making that samurai, the ninja or the ninja wa, the black men. That's why they wear black. Ninja mean black, wa means men or man. Now, I mean, the original man was the original people of Nippon, Japan, just like Europe and everywhere else on the planet Earth. But long story short, the hand pistol basically was developed around that time. Then we had around 1597, the revolver actually was created. Now, I mean, in Germany. Now, no, Hitler did what he did, and Hitler's known for what he's known for. But one of the things about the Germans, they was always good at technology. Now, I mean, you know, like back in the day, the P-38 was like the most accurate handgun in the world at that time. Now, I mean, so they not just was good in experimenting with UFOs and airplanes and rockets and hand grenades and tanks, what have you. You know, they were real focused on nationalism. So that allowed them to spend a lot of money on inventions. And when it comes to inventions, of course, you're going to have a lot of mistakes. You know, I mean, that's part of experimentation. You know what I mean? But the long story short, they taught the world and gave the world a whole lot of stuff, from the Volkswagen car to you name it. It's just all kind of things. I mean, the next major invention, if you will, for revolver was around 1597. That also was from Germany, as I was saying. And the next one is debatable, but I personally would give it to King Louis or King Louis, the Ace flintlock gun. Around 1620. This is not a science because you know it depends on, you know, they borrowed a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff was copied and recopied and things of that nature. There, you know, it's like sad to say, when they burnt down the Library of Ancient Kemet, or Egypt, Library of Alexandria, they destroyed so many documents. Who knows what we really lost? I mean, but Benjamin Franklin and all of them, they was known for studying ancient manuscripts. I mean, because in those ancient documents, they seen that the people in antiquity were not stupid. The Holy Quran teaches us that, they had technology like we have technology now. It's just that when the earth go through her cycles, civilizations rise and fall, empires rise and fall. I mean, the power of Egypt, Nubia, the Sudan, Azania, South Africa, France, Germany, Rome, Greece, Babylon, Iraq, Persia, Iran, you name it. India, China, everybody had that day, or that day where they looked at it like the sun would never set on their empire, on their kingdom. So around 1620, the flintlock gun came into existence. That was like a standard for a minute. I mean, that was the one that a lot of people start copying off of and using. The next one that I would give credence to would be around the year 1718. Called the Puckle gun. That's from the UK, the United Kingdom, named after James Puckle. But he's the one that made what we like. If you've seen a cowboy movie, the guns they had in the cowboy, like a Colt 45 type of gun, that was the type of gun that he designed all the way back in 1718. So you gotta remember, this technology was new. Now, I mean, they had the musket model come out in 1777 in France. And other people who had similar muskets, but it was basically built off of that same template. I mean, a lot of people copied off of it, but you could say we had old computers in the day, but now we got, say, laptops, iPhones, and things of that nature there. Now, I mean, the technology now makes the old technology seem obsolete. But the technology that was out back then, you had the big giant computers, they had the big giant hard drives and all that. That was it when, if you was living back in the 80s. I mean, punch cards and things of that nature there. Now, I mean, that was high technology. You had a big beeper phone or something of that nature there. Now, I mean, you was using some high technology at the time. Now, I mean, where if you had a big beeper phone nowadays, they look at you like, what you doing with that old phone? Now, I mean, but technology works like that. Like this phone will become obsolete in probably 6 months. They have another phone. They'll have an iPhone 14, 15, 16 or whatever. So the technology moves in leaps and bounds. Now, I mean, and it grows in every direction. So it's not just a gradual, sometimes just shoot straight through the atmosphere, troposphere, stratosphere, ionosphere, exosphere. Now, I mean, so when the Colt Revolver was created in 1836 by Samuel Colt, that technology for me actually really changed the game. Now, I mean, slave rebellions. Now, I mean, you had people that was doing, trading and importing and exporting. You had pirates. You had colonizers, barbarians, gladiators. Vikings, you had people all around the world that would organize in different time frames and use different weaponries. It may be a stick, a club. You know what I mean? It may be made out of wood. It may be iron, lead. You know what I mean? They may mix the iron with some carbon and get steel and make it harder. You know what I mean? So they always improve on things. The messenger told us in his last book, Al Sayers Arrived, he told us in 1974, he said, naturally you can improve on a thing once you have a make or model for it. You know what I mean? But after that, Revolver was, that Colt Revolver was made. Now I mean, they just like the mind of man, you know, when it comes to destruction, it's just, it's no depth to it. Now I mean, so then in 1862 they came up with the Gatling gun. And, you know, the U.S. government took charge of that, but Richard J. Gatling basically designed this gun, and, you know, just looking at it, it's like a formidable gun, because now you're dealing with warfare, as opposed to shooting a handgun or assault rifle or a musket or something that they should. You now got something that, I mean, could take down a flank of men. Now I mean, you know, so that's real dangerous. Now I mean, that's real dangerous. Now I mean, when you have something that sophisticated and that deadly on the planet Earth. Now I mean, and the prophets of old, they knew that we would be on this path of self-destruction. Now I mean, and the good thing is, even though there will be peace after war, right now, as Jesus put it, kingdoms always talking about peace, 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 but they always reaching for the sword. Now, I mean, we can't say peace, 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 and we're constantly reaching for the sword. You can't have it both ways. Now, I mean, you know, President Biden is getting up there in age. I see that this presidency is wearing him down. He's getting elderly. He's tired. Now, I mean, you know, and I'm not sure what the next 4 years is going to do. You know what I mean? But I wish he would have came in and stuck to his agenda. You know what I mean? You know, where I wanted Bernie to come in, but everybody's like, oh, Bernie's a socialist, this, that, and I don't get caught up on labels and all that. My thing is whatever works. You know what I mean? If you could blend socialism with capitalism, communism, whatever. You know what I mean? You know, it's like whatever works. Sometimes you have to use one system. Sometimes you can modify. You can add on, take from it, whatever. Now, I mean, it's no perfect system. Now, I mean, but when Bernie lost and Biden came in, the Democrats had promised all this stuff. They said they was going to do all this stuff, the House, the Senate, all this stuff. But when they got in, they started like, as Jesus put, they wanted to be lukewarm. They wanted to sit on the fence. They didn't want to be hot nor cold. You know what I mean? They wanted to be bipartisan. And it's like, you can't do that with Trumpites. I mean, you can't do that with people burning torches. You can't do that with young boys running around with assault rifles, shooting people. You gotta literally be like, all right, you the president. All right, I want to see you lead now. You guys to do like Trump. Trump, you know, see how big his signature. Trump was like, listen, like him or hate him, love him, whatever. Trump was Trump. You gotta respect that. Now, I mean, you know, people knew that he was going to be who he say he is. He wasn't pretending his things. He gonna represent, and he did his thing. Now, I mean, some of the things I liked, some of the stuff I didn't like, but I never seen a president that I really liked everything they did. The messenger told us in the Fall of America in 1973, he said there has never been a king or a queen or a president or a pharaoh or a czar or a sultan that had 100% of the people with him at any time in history, black or white. It's human nature, you just can't please all the people all the time. So sometimes you just gotta do you. You got to put on the pay no mind list. I mean, you know what you can do, but what I would have been more appreciative of if Biden would have came in and stuck to his agenda. The Democrats would have been a little more firmer, a little more assertive in their politics. Now, I mean, like, you know, you're not going to play around with the Second Amendment. Not in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's Second Amendment is stronger than the federal Second Amendment. The U.S. Constitution, Pennsylvania Constitution basically be like, listen, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be questioned. It shall means mandatory language in law. I mean, I have this is Black's Law Dictionary right here. Now, I mean, you study law, you'll be like, that's mandatory language. You're not. The only way you're really going to get rid of them guns is if you make an amendment to the Constitution. I mean, the Supreme Court not going to do it. It's sad to say, all these people getting shot, racial reasons, mental health issues, the children getting shot, elders getting shot. We shoot each other, we shoot ourselves. Now, I mean, suicides is up. Now, I mean, the best thing I could say that Biden could do under these type of circumstances is just put his foot down and be like, you know what? We're going to get rid of all the guns. All of them. No citizen is going to have guns. Now, I mean, that's one of the things that the NRA and President Reagan and the Republicans pushed for. Why? Because there were black men standing up for freedom, justice, and equality, known as the Black Panther Party. So in the 1960s, when they seen the Panthers with assault weapons, guns, they like, oh, Reagan thing was, oh, no, there's no reason a citizen should be walking around in the United States carrying a gun. Oh, really? Then when he became president, he modified his mathematics, and then he's like, oh, Second Amendment, yeah, you know what I mean? The only way to take these guns is out of my dead hand. And you had Charleston Heston, and who played Moses and all that. I know it was just real crazy. You know what I mean? I remember about 20-something years ago, I sued the NRA for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I just turned it over to Minister Farrakhan's legal team back around 85, 87, somewhere around there. But they actually had a photograph of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with an assault rifle, with his signature, talked about Hitler and how Hitler had, the Germans made great guns, and how America got great guns, and he got this army, and one day these weapons are going to be used. It was basically inciting a race war. Now, I mean, that's basically what they was doing. And so I didn't get a penny for it. I wasn't trying to win no money or nothing like that. There's just that. Now, I mean, it was a real dangerous time for FOIs and MGT, especially those in the belly of the beast. Now, I mean, you know, we was able to nip that in the bud and get it resolved. But it's like technology is technology. These devils come with all kind of stuff. Now, I mean, so that Gatling gun is something. But the thing that I liked is the prophet Isaiah in chapter 2, verse 4. I would like to read something to you from the Bible, the scriptures, if you will. The prophet Isaiah explained, and he should judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. So Isaiah is showing people are nations are actually taking the population of people in their midst, the citizens, and taking the resources and investing it in weapons. They invested it in knives and cold knives and hot bullets. Now I mean, and when we look at these guns, you can't be naive about it. You can't look at it like, oh, we gotta put a ban on assault weapons. People are not dying by assault rifles. People are dying by handguns. I mean, so you know, if you get shot with a handgun or you get shot with a rifle, you can die by either one. Now I mean, so you have to look at it more practical. Now I mean, you gotta look at it in a more pragmatic way. Now I mean, because here you have the nations wasting money on these guns, and the nation should be investing that money in its people. It should be stopping hunger, feeding the homeless. Now I mean, helping the homeless. It's like all these resources going towards war. Look at Russia right now, just blowing up everything. Everybody, that's like a bully running around with a shotgun, shooting after a unarmed person. Now I mean, it's like, it's not only like, yeah, you could beat them. You're Russia. everybody. When I was growing up, I looked at it like, you have superpowers. Now I mean, you have the preponderance of power, and you have the balance of power. Now I mean, you know, it's like Israel is a little small nation, but Israel being backed by the United States gives them a balance of power, so they could keep all them Arab nations around them in check, because America's backing them. Now I mean, you know, America's like, oh, we got the muscle to take on Russia. Now I mean, but Russia's arsenal married to China's huge army makes America like, oh, if Putin and if Russia and China link up, we'll have some problems. So it's a balance of power. It stops the bullies from bullying the little people in the schoolyard. Now I mean, so we got to understand that the issue isn't just about assault rifles, it's about a mentality. Now I mean, you have to change people's hearts or change people's minds if you're serious about stopping the violence. Now I mean, you know, you can't have a violent society. You can't come out as president and be like, I'm tired of this, these guns, this, that, and the other, and then you come out a few days later, oh, by the way, we ready to send some money over there to help them kill the Russians military. We ready to get them some real live technology. We're gonna give them some big guns. It's like, hold up. Either you're for the big guns or you're not. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be on the tip like, listen, Pootie, you put your guns down. I mean, we're going to put our guns down. Everybody put their guns down. I mean, everybody put their knives down. Now, I mean, will that stop the problem? Of course not. But will that alleviate the problem? Dramatically. If America got rid of its weapons and the UN and the World Court and the Hague and all this stuff, you know what I mean, that's supposed to be for peace and democracy and all this other beautiful sounding stuff, if they got serious about it and start leading by example and start thinking about people power, you'll get rid of the racism, the sexism, the classism. You'll see that stuff. It won't go away overnight, but it'll be a different morning if we woke up and we had to turn our guns in, all of them. I mean, it'll be a totally different thing. You look at the violence. I just looked at it the other day. It was something like over like 316, 321 shootings every day in the United States of America. With 50 states, I'm like, do the math on that. The Holy Quran in Surah chapter 18, ayat or verse 94 to 98, it teaches us about how in ancient times, you know, between two mountains, symbolically two governments, you know what I mean, they built weaponry on a scale that is unimaginable. Now, I mean, they literally had, what the Quran explains, that, you know, molten brass to pour over it. Meaning, like, not just blocks of iron, but then pour brass on top of the iron. That's what type of military destruction the planet is presently facing today. Now, I mean, we have so many wars. The war on poverty, the war on drugs, the war on racism, the war on terror, the war on politics, the war on, you think of it, it's a war about it. Now, I mean, but if we were to vibrate on a higher plane or a higher level of existence, now, I mean, our lessons teaches us from Master Muhammad that we have 7 mind dimensions: the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the soul, the self, and the will. Now, I mean, if we can rise up to the will of God, now, I mean, and start thinking on a higher plane, now, I mean, we'll have a different perspective on life. Now, I mean, we you know, it's like just walking down the street, you see a bug, you won't just want to step on it and kill it. Now, I mean, you wouldn't want to just kill your brother or your sister, now, I mean, or yourself, because you'll understand how sacred life is. Now, I mean, how divine the mind is. Now, I mean, and this is why the Holy Quran teaches us that when you kill an innocent person, it's like killing all of humanity. Now, I mean, so the violence that you see going on right now is not new. Now, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the white man's fault, this, that. It's like the devil's time was up in 1985. 1985. Study the message of teachers. Even with the 60-year extension not to exceed 70, January 1st, 1985, devil's time up. I mean, the messenger warned us in Message to the Black Man in 1965. He said the devil could rule for the next 1,000,000 years until we wake up to the reality of God. So until we wake up that Allah's all of us to the reality of God, we're going to continue having these problems because we're not acting in harmony in accord with the will of Allah. Now, I mean, and I'm not talking about a mystery God. When we say Allah, we mean Allah who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever, and his first, last, and only messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. The messenger teaches us that long before the white man was on earth, long before the Arabs were here, the Chinese, the Indians, when it was only black people on earth, the original man, the original woman. He teaches us before Yaqub was born 6,000 years ago, 66 trillion years ago. Think about that. 66 trillion years ago, politically, one of our brothers wanted everybody to speak the same dialect. And when he couldn't get his way, he decided that he was going to kill everybody. He's going to kill everyone on earth 66 trillion years ago. And he set out by drilling a shaft into the earth and filled it with high explosive and set it off and blew up part of our earth. The messenger teaches us in the Supreme Wisdom, Volume 1 in 1957, that we used to have 13 tribes of Shabazz. Shabazz means godly or godlike. We had 13 tribes. It's now June the 8th, 2022, according to the devil's calendar, and we only got 12 tribes of Shabazz. The message teaches us that That black man blew up a whole tribe he killed over 1 billion people. That's more than all the slaves, all the Native American Indians, all the British and Chinese, all the Korea, Vietnam, World War I, World War II, the future World War III, what have you. He blew up over it. That was black on black violence back then. Know what I mean? So we want to understand the reality of the messenger teachers. Not just looking at a piece, but look at the whole picture. Because he gives us a balanced teaching. He gives us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. He teaches us that knowledge is to listen, know, and observe. Knowledge is the foundation. Wisdom is to make your knowledge known, the woman. And understanding is a picture one makes in his or her mind of knowledge. And he teaches us that love is an elevation of understanding. We have to rise up to love. You can't fall in love. We can't go deeper and deep into war. We have to elevate our consciousness. The struggle continues. Peace and blessings, family. I'm your brother in the struggle. I'll leave.